We're talking about crafting your brand identity and defining your niche. We explore the art of building a unique brand identity, identifying a niche, a perfect niche in the competitive market today. And we have two exceptional entrepreneurs joining us. Priyasha, who has started a brand, Cinnamon Kitchen, with a very simple Instagram page in 2018. And now she is with your passion. You've turned your Instagram page into a thriving business, which offers a range of healthy, vegan, gluten-free, and preservative-free snacks. Thank you so much for joining us, Priyasha. And we've got Sarika Panchi, the founder of Jivisa. You're the visionary behind Jivisa, a wellness brand that celebrates sustainability and mindful living, with a focus on Ayurveda products backed with modern sciences. Jivisa has carved out a niche in the health and wellness space. You both have created a brand with a very specific niche. I want to start by asking, how did you identify this and how is your startup addressing this? Let's start with you, Priyasha.
Hi. So I really started out with the simplest idea. I didn't really even start it out as a business. I wanted to share with the world what I was making in my kitchen, which was helping me heal a lot of the lifestyle ailments that I was going through at the time. And from there on, I realized that a lot of people wanted to not just want the recipes, but also for me to give them what we were making. They didn't necessarily have the inclination to be making the same things at home or the resources for it. That's really where Cinnamon Kitchen started. It started with an insight that if you give people honest food that they really need, that is helping them with their busy lifestyle, there's a huge market for it. And over time, what we also realized is that the food that was helping people with PCOS was also helpful for other autoimmune conditions such as diabetes, or even people going through chemo could have things. So that's really where the business began.
And now you've turned that into a very successful business. What about you, Sarika? This is your 5th year with Jivisa. How did you identify this niche?
So I think for me, it started when I moved from Bombay to Dehradun. It was a huge mindset shift. There's something changes in the way you live, the way you start thinking, the way you start working, the organization that you're creating. So I shifted from IBN in Mumbai 9 years back to my hometown, Dehradun, to join my family business. I joined my brother. But one of the major shifts that happened was appreciating a slow pace of life, appreciating well-being as part of life, and everything related to that. And along with that came the COVID ka thappad that I think all of us got. And that, I think, shook us enough to tell us that we need to start looking within. We need to start appreciating life and little things that surround life. I think so that was a big shaking moment for all of us, and that's when Jivisa was kind of conceptualized. We were very clear that we wanted to make Jivisa into a wellness lifestyle, so that's what we are propagating, and it has become what it has become because of little experiences that we've had over the years.
So when we're talking about a brand identity, we were discussing this backstage as well. It's very important for people to understand the product. When you get into the market, you'll get a lot of inputs, you'll get lots of feedback, and somewhere down the line, entrepreneurs, founders lose the way or lose what the product, lose the focus there. How do you identify, how do you create that brand identity and stick to it? What are your strategies?
So when we started out, we were very clear that we wanted to start out with one particular product. And then we zeroed down on nut butters, right? So we were making like almond butters, peanut butters, all sorts of nut butters at the time. And then we very soon realized that actually the nut butter sits in a consumer's fridge for about 2 months, right? Because they're eating a little bit of it, the product has a long shelf life. And by the end of those 2 months, the customer forgets to reorder from us. They'll just pick it up at a store. At that point, we realized, since we were also dealing with less number of customers, that we wanted to have a product that consumer could eat on a daily basis, right? That's where the idea of being a snacking brand came about.
All right.
Right? Then after that, when you're a small brand, people tell you various things. People will be like, make us overnight oats, make us this, ye nahi mil raha hai, ye bhi bana do. But at the time, because you're a small business, you're also strapped for cash, you think that to get this additional revenue, you should just spread your offerings.
Yeah.
But that also we realized very soon what was happening was that we were doing too many products and too little of each unit, right? So that's really where identifying the core of the brand, you know, these two things really made us identify the core of the brand. Today, what Cinnamon Kitchen stands for, apart from the vegan, gluten-free, everything, is a healthy and delicious snacking brand, right? So once you define that, I feel that the personality of the brand is like the personality of a creator on Instagram. अगर आप एक लाइन में नहीं समझा सकते हो कि आप क्या कर रहे हो, you're probably doing it wrong.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah. So when you are able to explain in a line, this is what your brand stands for, that can define your communication, it can define your product offerings, it can define your target audience, it can define everything about your business, and then from there you may take a little bit hit in revenue to stick to your gut, but then those returns you see later. But then as a business, I think you should also be able to pivot and realize what's working and what's not working, but that's a journey you kind of take along the way.
So you can't have a focused idea as soon as you start. It's all right to learn on the go.
Of course. So we started with the nut butter brand, like I was telling you, and then somewhere along the way we started doing smoothies, because smoothies were really trending like 4-5 years ago. People were doing these big smoothie bowls with all sorts of nuts and seeds. Then we realized smoothies in transit don't work in the Delhi weather. Nut butters, 2 mahine ho gaye, nobody is making, nobody is ordering. Agli baar, people are just going to a grocery store, picking up another nut butter. Even if it's significantly better, the consumer doesn't want it. That's the reason Blinkit is thriving, no? And then we started with the cookies, because we realized cookies is something people can have on an everyday basis. Then we started with tea cakes.
Okay.
And for us, we very intentionally not got, even though we do cakes, we've not intentionally gotten into the fine patisserie space, even though we have the internal capabilities of doing that, because we are a snacking brand. And by the virtue of that, we're everyday and we're not celebration, right?
Yeah.
So that is a niche we identified, and now we're sticking to it.
So everybody who works with the company, the organization,
Yes.
understands that formula. So every time somebody
Exactly.
comes up with a new idea, does it fit
Exactly.
into that?
So you need to, exactly what you said, you need to be able to communicate it to the customers as well as communicate it to the internal team. And that's how you're able to really grow with it. And of course, I mean, all of these were pivots that we made along the way, but we stuck to the core of the brand.
And that's
right?
obviously very, very important.
Yes.
Sarika, Jivisa, I don't know if many people know this, Jivisa is an all-woman run organization. Now, was that a conscious decision, or was that a choice that you just ended up taking while on the go?
So, no, it was never by design. It kind of happened on the way. I'm a single mother, a lot of women reach out to me, and we talk various things. We talk personal, professional, parenting, etc., etc. When we started Jivisa, I have my co-founder Snehi sitting right here. The two of us were kind of leading it, and we thought, okay, we'll work with a lot of marginalized women of the mountains, because we are based in Dehradun. So, wahan tak ka vision was clear. But as we started working and we started building a team, एक तरफ से marginalized women would reach out to say, can I come and work in your store, can I do this, etc. And we were working and upskilling them. But when a lot of my own ex-colleagues from the corporate world started reaching out and saying, can I join you even though I've had a 10-year sabbatical, would you take me in, I've had no experience, is when I realized that women across strata need, a helping hand once in a while. And that's when we decided that by design, we will make it into an all-women organization. And I'm surrounded by great men. It's not that I have anything against men, but I do feel that women, even now, have a long way to there's a long gap to be fulfilled. And through this, our partners, our vendors, wherever we are taking people from, we are trying to partner with as many women organizations, and our team is a 100%, women team. I hope as we grow, we are able to keep it. I don't know agar hum 200 log, 400 log ho jayenge, to hum kitna kar payenge, but that is the intent right now, and we plan to stick to that.
And I hope you do. I wish you all the luck with that.
Thank you.
I'd like to add to that, I feel that today in India is the best time to be a woman entrepreneur. I feel like there's so much support in the ecosystem. Everybody, men and women, are ready to go above and beyond to kind of help you out, provide you that ecosystem, teach you.
Yes.
And even though for me the brand has been bootstrapped, so in that way we haven't had VC help coming in, those kind of contacts coming in. Whenever I've reached out to a fellow entrepreneur who's a little bit ahead of the way, they've always gone out of their way to help me out.
Yes, I do agree to that. I think this decade is for women. But while I'm also creating a community of women, not everybody is a founder, so not everybody has the privilege of having access to this kind of, a community. I do feel that with whatever we are doing for the rest of the team also, I think if there is an opportunity, why not? Why not create a community that can also help your fellow women friends?
Absolutely. So, Sarika, you've carved out a niche in the health and wellness sector. So, were there any challenges when you started, because it was fairly new, consumers might not know so much, to create awareness about your brand and then building customer loyalty must have been a challenge. So what has been your strategy in this?
So I think one of the things that worked for us was, for us our North Star, our guiding principle was our brand promise. We decided that anything that we cannot give to our parents, our children or consume ourselves, we will not take it to the market. Uski koi bhi business opportunity ho, we will not do it because we will not be able to sell it as passionately if we don't believe in it. And that has held us in really good stead so far. That has helped us build our customer loyalty, because our problem today is not repeat purchase. Our problem is taking my product to you the first time. When I'm able to take it the first time, I will get you back into my system. That we figured out. So challenge has been more about how do you let people know about you, then once they know about you, to kind of get into that entire system.
I like the confidence. Once they're a first-time customer, they're obviously coming back.
Yeah,
They're
I mean,
for
the very
sure
fact
coming
that we're
back.
sitting here, I mean, we're sitting here not because I reached out to ABP, because a very senior leader of ABP had one of my Kadas in Vistara's business class. She wrote to me on LinkedIn and she said, Sarika, I love this. How do I help? So I went and I met her. I met some of the people sitting here. And that's how I'm here on the stage today. But had it not been for that one sachet of Kada, I would not be sitting here, right?
Had it not been for the passion that you put in that product.
Yes. So I think that has helped us a lot. Thankfully, after the pandemic, people have started appreciating wellness. Do we need to educate people a lot? Yes, we do, because we are also trying to educate people about the lifestyle and not just my product. So very extensively in Jivisa, we try and tell people that, look, wellness is not unidimensional. It is multiple dimensions. It is what you eat, how you lead your life, the conversations that you have, what you read, how you give back, give forward to the society, which will finally, create this entire ecosystem. So, wahan pe thoda sa challenge hai, because a lot of people will reach out to say, well, if I have your green tea, will I lose weight? And I'll say, no, please don't take it.
Because
If
we
that's
love
what
instant
you-
results.
Yes. But if you follow this lifestyle, yes, you may. So there, the challenge is about educating people, and that's what we are focusing entirely on. We are only focusing on educating people on leading a great lifestyle and what are the touch points around that. But once they get there, we get really good feedback and we get people back into our system.
I want to talk more about strategies, but I want to talk about business. Sarika, you recently went viral. Priyasha, you recently went viral. Your pitch on Shark Tank, everybody loved it. So I want to know, how much knowledge of business does somebody need to have before they dive into starting a business of their own?
So when I started out, and in fact for the first 2 years after, I was not thinking of Cinnamon Kitchen as a business at all. It was just about making what I loved and sharing it with the world. Of course, we did at that level some level of unit economics, and we were still making a good amount of money. In the first 2 years, in fact, we were able to get enough money to get a whole factory up and running. But those were like just the basics. Like, you realize what your cost is, what you want the selling price to be, basic information that you can get on the internet. And then, of course, like, you kind of grow from there as to, I come from an advertising background, so marketing and advertising is something that came very naturally to me. So growing the business on Instagram, through, various personal marketing channels, through farmers markets, that kind of stuff, but it was not rocket science at all. I only started looking at Cinnamon Kitchen as a business, say about some 2 years ago, two and a half years ago. That's when we started performance marketing. That's why we started a lot of these paid activities and initiatives. I started building a team, the team structure, understanding what a ROAS is, what a return on ad investment is, or like what my click-through rate looks like, or what my conversion rate looks like, or what my cohort looks like. But those are things that people will teach you also along the way. Like once you get to that scale, if you are hiring an agency, for example, to do it for you, just spend an hour with them, learn it, and then you have enough resources on the internet to learn more about it. I think the key to being an entrepreneur is not what you already know, but it is how flexible you are to learn new things.
Very well
because
said.
what I've seen also now in my experience with like hiring people and working with people is that earlier the kind of people that I used to hire, I would be like my first employee, they came to me and they're like, what is my designation? And I was like, worker. You know, you work with me, you're a worker. You know, I don't know what your designation is, just do everything, I do everything, you know. But then that's not how people work. People want these really like streamlined roles that they want to get into, and they want to specialize in that also, which is also the kind of resource that you need, right? If somebody is really good at marketing, it's better that they do just marketing, right? But an entrepreneur is able to look at every problem and look at solutions and also focus their attention across departments, right? So then I realized that actually different people are suited to different roles, and that's when it came to me that I'm suited to entrepreneurship because I'm not looking at a separate role, I'm just looking at problems and I'm willing to learn and adapt and kind of pivot along the way, and I have that thing of not feeling you know, intimidated because I just like have a new problem in front of me.
So there's a special skill. It's like if you decide to start a company, if you become an entrepreneur, you have to be a good people manager as well, right? Like you have to understand
Yes.
how people function. Not everybody can work at your pace. A certain amount of passion that you have for your product, an employee might not feel the same way at the beginning. Maybe they'll probably match it later. So what are your tips for people, budding entrepreneurs? People management. I want to ask both of you. People management, of course, that's very key. Do you want to answer that?
Sure. So I will give you two perspectives. I've worked in the corporate world for almost 2 decades, and now I've been an entrepreneur for a fairly long time. I think we have to remove the very word people management from our vocabulary. You don't manage people. You work with people. They become your team only if you allow them to become. So in the corporate, we had a very 9 to 5, Monday to Friday ecosystem. Today in my brand, we don't have any policy. There is no leave policy, there is no time policy, there is nothing. We are all here to push this vehicle, and I'd like you to be as dedicated to it, and you co-own this brand as much as I do. Now, how do I create that? Because I work with women, there are PTMs to be attended to, there are father-in-laws, mother-in-laws, parents to be taken to hospitals, or children jinke exams hain, or whatever, there is an anniversary. In fact, there are days when one of us will say that, look, I'm really feeling fatigued, I am not coming to office, and no questions asked. That's the kind of policy we have now managed to create in this thing. In lieu of that, I have 100% committed team, and I mean it with you. You can come to our office in Dehradun and meet anybody. They are as passionate about GVisa as I am. They are the spokesperson for GVisa when I'm not around. And we are able to do that because I know that on a day that someone's child is unwell at home and I force them to come to office, they will mentally not be there. So have you first provided them the ecosystem? And if you have, you will get like a super efficient, super dedicated team that own the work and they don't come to kill, their hours. So मेरे लिए तो corporate से यहाँ की journey का सबसे बड़ा switch यही रहा है. I don't think we need people managers. I think you just need to understand fellow human beings, exactly how you understand yourself, and if you're able to apply it to them, you will have a great team. There is no way, you may have one odd bad apple once in a while. Chances are कि वो आपके system में रह ही नहीं पाएंगे because they will not understand the culture that you're trying to create. But once you create that system, they are there to stay.
I think it's a great tip for everybody. So you have passion for your product, but you also have to feel a certain way about your product, and you have to make sure that your team feels a certain way about it as well.
Completely. How do I expect a colleague to kind of do anything, even if it is packaging of a stuff, if she's mentally not switched on? So, पहले तो मुझे उसको समझना पड़ेगा. I have to be passionate about my team as much as I am passionate about my product, for my team to be passionate about everything else. It's an ecosystem of sorts.
So, Priyasha, in your journey, I want to know what's been the proudest moment so far in your journey since you've started
I
Cinnamon
think
Kitchen?
the proudest moment was after the second year of the business when I was, and actually very recently, 2 months ago, we moved into a new factory space. And I could never, like every time I just go to that factory and I like go to all the floors, I'm just like, what is happening, you know? Because I feel so overwhelmed just looking at the the scale of the business that it's become, you know? Something that just 4 years ago, so not too long ago, started from a little shelf in my room, you know? Like it was like 3 times, if you combine these 3 tables, that was the size of it, right? To now, for us having a 16,000 square feet fully functional factory, you know, a production unit in like, you know, 20 cloud kitchens across India is just crazy in 4 years, right? So when that factory came to life for me just 2 months ago, that was probably the proudest moment. And we've done all of this bootstrapped, right? And I'm a solo founder, so there's that as well. So I mean, I guess that was.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
It has been quite a journey. Yes, well done. And what has been your proudest moment?
I think there have been multiple. I continue to say this and I mean it. For me, building this brand has been akin to raising my son. Like every moment. I've had sleepless nights, I've cried, we've celebrated small wins. तो मुझे नहीं लगता मैं एक बड़े win को, I mean, today sitting here is surreal for us because, you know, we've never done any PR, we've never done any marketing. So there have been multiple such moments through the journey. I think we continue to enjoy those benchmarks and we continue to grow. And we've also realized that next wala पिछली वायरस से थोड़ा बड़ा था and we didn't even realize it. Like she's had her first factory, we had a little store, we thought that will suffice, then we took a bigger store and now we have a very big warehouse. And we are already, you know, outgrowing that completely. So I don't think it is that one moment. It is those multiple moments during your journey that continue to completely surprise you and take you by, like you're in awe of that moment and then you say, okay, I must have done something right. Let me move on to the next.
I thought I'll ask this question because I'm assuming you ladies are very busy, so maybe you kind of ignore your proud moments or big moments. So I hope you keep a note of everything big and small that happens. So we're talking about creating a brand identity. Once you've identified your brand identity, you've created a unique brand identity, what is more important, what is the next step is ensuring that your customers stay with you. You are very confident with your customers coming back to you. What is this? I'm sure there is a strategy to building customer loyalty. How do you do that?
So I think the first thing is your product, right? There is nothing you can do to sell a bad product because the customer may try it once, they will not come back a second or a third time if your product is not good, no matter what you spend on marketing, right? So as we were discussing backstage, I think India is really a country where you can afford to start small. You start small, you pivot, you perfect your product, you find your product market fit. After that, it's a lot of marketing, a lot of retention, understanding what the customer wants. And then, you know, as we scale, because we deal more in the B2C format, most of our business, 70% of our business comes directly from the consumer, right? As a result of that, we have multiple smaller transactions and we are dealing with a huge volume of customers, right? What that makes us realize is also how you can, one, get the customer back, engage them, and then make the existing customers buy more from you. So how can you increase the cart value for a single customer, right? We on a very regular basis monitor the cart value and the average order value a customer is buying from us for. Then we realize, okay, our order value is 1200 rupees, which is an average checkout price. And a customer is paying maybe 100 rupee to me on shipping. Okay. So 1300 rupees is what they're buying it for. Can I tell them that, listen, you buy this product worth 250 from me and then you will get free shipping. For me, the product is costing me 50 rupees maybe. So I have a 200 margin on that, right? I give them free delivery, I still earn 100 rupees above that. right? So it's these kind of like little tweaks and calculations that you make along the way by looking at your cohort, looking at your average order value. Then there would be customers who are high order buyers. So every time their frequency may be lesser, but they'll maybe every time they make a transaction, it's 3,000, 3,500 rupees, and they may be buying twice a month from us, right? As a grocery brand, so the transactions happen very frequently, right? People order on a weekly basis for their groceries. There might be other customers who are ordering for 1,200 rupees from me. There might be other customers who are only buying when there's an offer. So they're only buying when it's a 500 rupee product, which is sold at 300 rupees, and they'll just buy that and they'll leave. Okay, so now different strategies need to be applied for these different consumer sets for them to purchase more from you. Because anyway, I mean, this is kind of common knowledge that it's easier to sell to an existing customer than acquire a new customer, right? Then in terms of performance marketing, how can you divide your strategy? Do you want to spend more on your existing customers through performance marketing, or do you want to target them through organic channels, which is a low cost, high value, high profitability sale for you, and then spend more budgets in acquiring new customers that will then stick and stay, right? What kind of other messaging will be good for them to be with you? So can you share recipes with them? Can you share a newsletter with them so that they're constantly engaged? So they're not like open their email because they never open your email, it's not going in spam. They're opening it, they're making something out of it. Next time it comes as a priority email, right? So there are little things that you kind of do along the way. What are the offline touch points that you can give them that make them feel connected to the brand? Can you give them a certain marketing collateral that when they buy from you, they're engaged with it for a little bit more? So when we started our campaign for Loved by Children, this was actually an important insight to increase the AOV. We realized that a lot of people, AOV is average order value, is that we realized that a lot of people are buying for themselves, but then they're also making their children eat the same thing. We were not really propagating it, but because it's healthy, their children are eating it, they're happy with that. So we really consciously started advertising and speaking about it, right? And then we identified a couple of products that the children may really like because they're not dark chocolate, or maybe they're like, more to their palate and so on, right? Now what we did was that with this, we started sending them like little snakes and ladders and little like Ludo games and stuff in their bags, right? So the customer really engaged with our brand a little bit more. The next time, because a customer is bombarded with so many brands along the way, you have like a bazillion brands, right? So how can you make the customer think of your name, remember your name through offline touch points? How can you target them through online touch points in a way that is low cost, high efficiency for you? How can you identify which type of customer it is? Is it a high value, low order frequency customer, or a high order frequency, low order value customer, or a discount centric customer? And how can you make strategies for them in a way that makes them buy more from you? Is where customer retention comes in.
So there's a fair bit of learning, understanding that one has to do. So if you're scaling your business, you first have to understand your customer, make sure they stay with you. Do you have a similar strategy, or do you have a different approach to ensuring customer loyalty?
Yeah, I guess you have to understand your customer. That's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And your product has to speak for itself. That's also a no-brainer. Both these things are basic hygiene. इसके बिना तो आप start ही नहीं कर सकते. But unlike in their case, they are heavily D2C. We are heavily B2B so far because we've not picked funds. We never had the money to spend on marketing. We've been called the product purists by a whole lot of people. So like I was mentioning earlier, that once somebody tries it, they do come back to us, and we've had it multiple times across corporate orders. So because we are 90% B2B. We supply to Indigo, we supply to Vistara, we supply to Westin, Hyatt, and the likes. So, once you're able to crack that, then they come back. The other thing, in the space of branding, we have really worked on our brand building. Unlike marketing, and like I said, that we have still not pressed the pedal on the marketing machinery yet, we've consistently been working on what is our brand story, where do we come from, why are we doing what we are trying to do, how are we integrating it into our products, etc., etc. So each touch point of the brand is something that we have very, very effectively worked on. The entire team, they understand what we are trying to do, and that has spoken a lot for itself. And and hence we've not spent so much, you know, on the marketing bit so far. So we've stayed true to that, and we've just kept working on that and building that. I guess that's what's worked.
Because we have limited time, I would want a piece of advice from both of you for all budding entrepreneurs out there, be it in a niche or a competitive market, if they want to start something new. A few tips that you'd like to give them that they have to remember that maybe you missed when you started your journey, but you know now. A few things that they have to make sure they know when they start their product, their journey.
Things start small, perfect your product. Do not raise funds before you find your product market fit. Do not raise funds too early on. Focus on profitability. There's this whole thing going on with D2C where nobody's making money, everybody's raising funds. It's a valuation game. Do not do that. It's not good for you in the long run. Do not dilute too much equity in the beginning. Stay true to your brand. Find your niche. There's no substitute for hard work. That's it, I guess.
Does it include some of the mistakes
pretty much
that you
covered it
made?
all.
I will send you.
My-
I'm going to email you a whole list.
Okay, quite a few things.
We can read it out later. Yes.
Yeah, I guess all of this, the only thing I'll tell a lot of people is just start. Okay, don't be scared. You will never be perfect at everything, even when you've raised a whole lot of funds.
Yeah.
Even 10 years from now, you know, whatever series of funding, I'm sure I will still be making mistakes. So don't be scared of making mistakes. It's the biggest learning you can have. Way more than what your classrooms can teach, way more than any MBA degree can teach you. So just take the leap of faith, jump. And then you will figure out a way to navigate. You may make mistakes, you will fall, you will scratch your knee, what the hell, doesn't matter. Just jump and start is what I tell everybody. I mean, kahin na kahin pahunch jaoge, yaar. It doesn't matter.
And I think once you've started your business, that one important thing I think everyone should remember is if you can't explain your product in one line, then you're doing something wrong.
Yes. Yep. Yes. So that has to come from a
Mic
space
drop.
of passion. वो तो मतलब that's like a given.
All right. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining us, for being part of this panel. Thank you for this insightful conversation.
Thank you.